Aloha!
All right.
I am here doing my new series of interviews called Pieces of the Puzzle, where I interview champions, usually my clients. But today I have someone who hasn't been my client, but is turning into my client. We'll explain in a minute. Yeah, so pieces of the puzzle of how champions are achieving their goals. So I would love to introduce you today to Allison Halverson. Aloha.
Hi, thank you, Cynthia, for having me.
And Allison, I'm going to let you describe all of your titles because I feel like you have so many. I'm just going to say Decathlon world champion first and foremost of the elite level, but you also broke some records and you compete for Armenia as well as the United States. So can you describe like your titles achieved this year and like those are, your goals that you achieved this year, your titles. Yeah, introduce yourself to everyone.
All right, well, I'm Allison Halverson. I represent Armenia, but I did formerly represent the US. I've been on 6 US teams, the Thorpe Cup, the Capital Cup, Pan Am Juniors, and then I decided to, switch and represent Armenia, my mother's side. And that was a really hard process to do. But when I finally was able to compete for them, I set many national records. Armenia is a very small country, but I set the national record in the 400 meter this year. I had the national record in the pole vault, the 100 hurdles, the mixed 4x4 relay, the heptathlon, and now the decathlon.
Holy cow, that's a lot of national records. That's
Yeah.
wow, super impressive. And you were a 400, was your main event 400 meter hurdles before this year?
Okay. No, I actually was a heptathlete. I was a professional heptathlete, and then I actually am also a mom. So I became a mom in 2022, and I had my son. And then after that, I still wanted to continue to compete because I was switching countries and I wasn't able to compete for them for 3 years. And so that's why I decided to have a baby. And then when I came back, I wanted to, represent them, and I couldn't do the heptathlon. It was too. I didn't have a coach anymore. I moved to Austin, Texas, and I decided to just train for the 400 hurdles because I did that event also in college. And I think my strength in the 800 and my strength in the hurdles in the heptathlon made a perfect combination to do the 400 hurdles.
That's, I have to say, like, now being a decathlete myself, trying all the different events, I haven't tried 400 hurdles yet, but I did have a dream about it. And in the dream, I was at my Masters National Championship, and my hurdle coach, who's been training me from Texas, actually, for multi events in the short hurdles, he was there and he was telling me, just relax, you're gonna do fine. And I was like, I texted him and I was like, oh my gosh, I had this dream that I did 400 hurdles. How crazy is that? It's like never even crossed my mind. It was something. And he goes, oh, well, that's a perfect fit, actually. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I gotta do
you
it.
should do it. You
So
should do it.
I'm going to try to dabble in maybe one or two in the next year, but that is a beast of an event, is my point. It's a beast of an event because you got to, you're running the 400 and then you've got these obstacles. So I'm just trying to figure out, I guess, mentally, and of course I have to practice a lot more because I have to practice, like, I guess maybe I should just ask you, what are you thinking when you come around the 300 meters and you still have what, like 2 hurdles or 3 hurdles?
Yeah, 2 hurdles.
2 hurdles left after the 300 mark. What are you thinking to get to the finish line over those last 2 hurdles? And this is like got a little off topic, but
Oh, that's okay. I actually think the 400 hurdles is easier than the 400 because you have the hurdles to distract you. So I think that was my problem though. I took a long time this year to get fast. I kept running the same times over and over again. And it was because I was too focused on the hurdles. But the hurdles, what I'm thinking is I just gotta get to that hurdle on this leg. Like I know if I'm on that leg, the stride's gonna be fine. If I hit the other leg, that means I stuttered. So you're trying to hold this form, but also you have to remember to run fast.
So are you thinking like just still you got to attack those last 2 hurdles,
You
like
have to attack the
attack them
hurdle.
so that you hit the correct your stronger lead leg, I'll say, because I did
Yeah.
try to run. I did incorporate a couple of hurdles into my like my 100 meter runs on the grass. and I put 2 hurdles in my way just to see, and
Yeah.
I did know, I tried to switch just for kicks, and oh man,
Yeah.
I was like twisting all over the place, and I'm like, this is definitely not efficient. So I can understand that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you know what? Now that you said that, I remember my college teammate Sarah used to tell me the same thing, that she felt, because she was on the 4x4 relay with me. She said she
Uh-huh.
felt like the 400 hurdles were easier than the 400, and
Yeah.
that blew my mind. Still does.
Also, you're not running, I mean, like, 400, you run faster than in the 400 hurdles. I mean, I guess you're running as fast as the hurdles slow you down, but I don't know, yeah, the hurdles distract you. And like, even if you do have bad form over the hurdles, there's so much like running in between. The hurdle form is not as important, even if it looks ugly. You just have to not stutter.
That's good news for me, because I'm a medium
Yeah.
player, so my form is not that great.
Yeah, you just gotta
But
get
it's
back on
getting
track
better
and
with
run.
practice. But oh, that's really inspiring. Thank you for that little personal inspiration.
Yeah,
And
you're
let's go
welcome.
back to talking about you as a mom, because this is the biggest deal for me, is that you stopped your career and took the time to become a mom. And I feel like in track and field, that's not always supported in many different ways. And so you have to be a really strong individual and a warrior to be like, no, I'm starting my family, I'm going to have a baby, and I'm going to come back after the baby. Because, our hormones change so much, but not only our hormones, they deposit fat in different places we've never had before, totally necessary for the baby. But it also makes our bones move. One of the things that I remember the most was feeling like my pelvis bones were moving back into place after my third child, and I started running again. It actually, like, my bones were hurting. And
Wow.
so, I mean, of course, I was older than you at, age 40, 41 when I started, but like, can you describe your journey of becoming a mom? And then what are you thinking about coming back? Like, how did that process go through your mind?
Um, we didn't, like, my husband and I, we joke about it, but we didn't have a plan. It was just like my whole thing was just one day at a time. If I know the results will add up, I just have to trust the process. I had a pretty tough birth. I couldn't walk for 3 weeks. It was really, really hard. I didn't understand like how other moms could just like bounce right back. But I hemorrhaged really bad at my birth, and I had postpartum preeclampsia. And that's another thing. What I've learned actually from you is how important protein is. I never actually cared about protein, and so when I was an athlete, I felt like I did fine in my nutrition, but I didn't really like think too much of it. And then definitely when I was pregnant, I kind of probably didn't eat as much protein, and that's how you develop preeclampsia, part of it.
Oh, that's really
But
interesting.
yeah, and I'm very strict on like how much protein I eat, and protein shakes really help. I never did that before.
Well,
But
let me ask you a question right there is, and I'm finding that a lot of young female athletes are just lacking the nutrition information, whether it's because they're listening to dietitians that are just so, trained by educational systems that are powered by big food, and they're saying, oh, you need sugar for fuel and things like that. Like, is there any one particular thing that you felt um, like created the lack of awareness about the protein as a young female athlete? Like,
yeah,
for me, find that these girls are just not getting the information somehow.
yeah. I think it's like knowing why you need it, because I mean, my doula told me, she's like, "Oh, you need to be eating protein." I'm like, "Okay." I think I don't know, like, but she said like it's you need to because you can develop high blood pressure, or you need to be eating as many grams of protein as you weigh. Like that is like instead of just saying, "Oh, you need to eat protein," because like as an athlete, like, "Oh, you have to eat protein," but like why? Like what is it? You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just gonna be like, "Oh, I think I eat enough protein." Like I had chicken for dinner the other day, and I had some bacon with this morning with oatmeal or whatever. But it's really you
So,
need
so
to,
more of this, like more of the specifics of it, like how, like
yeah.
instead of just telling girls you need to eat protein, you need to say like, you need to eat quality protein from these sources and maybe aim for
Um,
this amount and that sort of thing.
oh, it got cut out.
Oh, yeah, I was saying like maybe these girls need to know more specifics of not just, okay, you need to eat protein, and then they're guessing how much am I eating. But they need specifics like program of body weight and that sort of thing, and the quality of protein, right? Because, you know, some people think that certain proteins are equal to others and they're not. So I think, yeah, like if that's what we're here doing. We're going to get this information out to these young girls so they can be powerhouses too. So
I agree. I coach a lot of young girls and I tell them how important this is, how it really is a game changer. But I don't know if they listen, but I try to tell them.
and
But
yeah, and so you said you started incorporating protein shakes, and it's so funny because I had no idea that you were following everything I was just talking about. And I get every once in a while I get these messages out of the blue. I told my friend, like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, social media is so annoying. I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, it's hard to keep up with content. And,
Mhm.
you know, I embrace it now because I'm just so humbly grateful to be able to share information with others. But every time I think, like, oh, maybe I'll get off of Instagram or something, I get this message in my inbox, and it's some woman or girl, and they're like, you've changed my life. I've watched every podcast that you've been on, and I'm all like, wow, that's incredible. But you sent me a similar message with the nutrition, like you started incorporating the protein shakes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's so funny. So when I had to sit out because when I switched countries, there's a rule where they want you to suffer for 3 years, but there's a clause that says, but the panel will use their own discretion. And usually they waive the waiting period. But for some reason, even though I met all the criteria, when I've known other athletes that haven't, they actually said they haven't met the criteria, they get it waived. But for some reason, God wanted me to wait, God wanted me to have a baby. And so I remember being in my closet, and I lived in Texas, and I was in my closet and I was stalking your Instagram. And I'd like, but after I have my baby, like I wrote on everything. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And I didn't think through like during my pregnancy, but I was like taking a break from sports. But yeah, I wrote on everything I'm going to do after I have my baby. And 6 weeks after I have my baby, I started researching all the supplements. And then I ended up calling the ATP labs, and because I really wanted to know like exactly when I should take these supplements, because on the bottle it has like recommendations, and I wanted to know before I bought them to invest in this. And then the owner called me back, and his name is Robert, I think, and then he put me in contact with Malcolm. And then it was just so many doors opening up for me when I felt like so many doors had closed. And then Malcolm called me out of the blue, and I didn't even reach out to him yet. He reached out to me, and then he was telling me all these great things. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, like, how much like do you charge? And he was like, no, I want to help you for free. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. And like, thank you so much, like, for believing in me, because like this is hard, like, especially to help someone that like took a year off and had a baby, and I'm older, so like that was just a big blessing. And
Yeah, and so for our listeners who don't know, Malcolm is Malcolm William of Source Performance, and he is my strength coach as well as Allison's. And man, I didn't even ask you about pieces of the puzzle, but we're already talking about it
yeah,
basically. I know he's got to be one of your pieces of the puzzle.
he
And
is.
he's just, I always talk about my mentor, Charles, and Malcolm was one of Charles's top students. He's like level bazillion on the strength training under Charles, but just a beautiful individual that I also feel blessed to know and to have as my strength coach. So maybe, do you want to talk about strength training as a piece of your puzzle? I know we're kind of all over the place,
I
but
know, that's okay.
yeah. So,
So
you listen to me, and from me, you've discovered ATP Labs, and then ATP Lab, of course, Robert and Malcolm are friends, and they've been friends for years, supporting each other. And so because you were in Malcolm's area, he sent you Malcolm, who's like just amazing. And so, yeah, and that's how we ended up connecting. Because then I saw you were Malcolm's client, and I'm like, yeah, this girl's badass. What a warrior. She's had a baby,
wow.
and she's running 400 horse. This is crazy. I love this.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, one of the big things
Maybe talk about how the strength training developed and
yeah.
helps you.
Well, one of the things I asked the Robert on the phone was, I had a hard time. I was wondering how I was gonna lose the baby weight, because like I just like thought it would fall off. I don't know, but it was really, really hard actually. And I was working out. I start like fall training 5 months postpartum, And then eventually I would only lose 1 pound a month. And it was like, I was like still 10 pounds over my pre-pregnancy weight, and it took forever. But Malcolm was very, very helpful. And like, he honestly taught me a new way to make like working out like a lifestyle, because I think a lot of athletes have trouble after they're done with their sport to keep it going because it was like a chore, maybe, you know, for a goal. And like, he really did teach me how to, he made things easier. Like the workouts were all timed and it was on this app, and everything was like tempo based. Because before I met Malcolm, when I would have all these other coaches, they were great coaches, but I just felt like when I was in the weight room, it was like trying to go as heavy as you can all the time, trying to just go as fast as you can, get it over with. And it was hard. It was like harder. Then it was, I felt like my back would hurt more and all that stuff. But
Yeah,
with Malcolm,
I think
yeah.
that a lot of people don't realize that this concept that was really developed by Charles, time under tension, that
Mhm.
means that you're counting everything from your tempo to your rest period. And what I always say is that people don't realize that you actually recruit more muscle fibers by doing a slower eccentric tempo,
Yes.
which means you get faster with less risk of injury, and you're not using that elasticity all the time. So, you know, there's a time and place for power movements, but it's a well orchestrated formula, basically.
Mhm.
And then I know that Malcolm, probably with you as well, like he periodizes everything. So everything
Yeah.
should be planned ahead of time. So he'll ask you, right, what your goal is,
Yeah.
when do you need to peak? And then if it's 4 years from now, he will totally plan all of your strength training all the way back from peaking in 4 years. Like it's crazy.
Yes.
But yes, I'm glad you mentioned that tempo, because I see a lot of track athletes just, doing a lot of power movements and they're getting hurt. Like you said, they're back because they're just trying to lift as heavy as possible. And that's not always the best way to recruit those muscle fibers.
Yeah. It's been, yeah, it's been really nice. And um it, because I didn't have to feel like I was going as heavier, because you can't go slow and have it super heavy. So that was really nice. And then every week, like, you increase and you eventually get stronger. And I really liked how, like, one of the big lifts that we do a lot was a lat pull down. And when I first met him, I tried to do pull up and I was like, oh my God, I can do like one pull up now, like great. And then we did a bunch of lat pull down stuff. And then I was able to like bunch of pull ups with weights like attached to me after it. I'm like, wow, like just doing that pull down helped me with my pull up. Like I did not think that would do that. And then all these machines, I would do more machine work, which I never did before. And then and a lot of pulley stuff. And then eventually when it got to like more of the competition of my season, we incorporated the power lifts and like more bench press with the bar instead of a dumbbell. And I PR'd in everything. Like it was crazy. Like I did less, I felt like, but it actually got me to be stronger than I had ever been before. After being my weakest, I was so weak. I couldn't even bench the bar after I gave birth.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's something. And I mean, wow. And I agree. Like there's did you know I did 0 Olympic lifts to run my world champion time, which was faster at age 43 than as a D1 athlete in college. I did 0 Olympic lifts.
That's
And
awesome.
I did all tempo work. I stayed healthy. Other than last year, I hyperextended my knee, getting my
Oh,
spike caught in the track, soft track.
yeah.
Other than that, I've never been injured as in my 40s as a master's athlete, which is crazy that I'm able to run, these really hard workouts and run these fast times. But I feel like that strength training is definitely one of those key pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, so it's definitely like low risk injury. And
Mhm.
then another thing that he taught me that like clicked in my brain was the doing that everything timed. It was like he said my muscles be under time, like the tension for the amount of time I'd be racing. I'm like, wow, that's like a cool way to really think of like I'm lifting because it's exactly how much I will run on the track. You know, sometimes we're like, oh, I just have to get my lift done. But it's like, no, like I'm lifting because like it's going to help me running down the track. So that was really nice.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's such a fascinating formula that Charles taught us on how to work out, just so scientific. And I think a lot of people are missing this, and we're so lucky to have Malcolm.
I
What is another piece of the puzzle for you in achieving your goals?
Well, I would say the running too. Just like in the weight room, I felt like we did a lot of like more low volume stuff and just shorter stuff too, and more sprinting. And I worked on just getting faster, like for like even like for 100s or 150s. I think this past year I only ran a 400 one time in practice and a 300 one time. I would do a lot of 200s and a lot of 100s, but it was really high intensity and shorter stuff where all the rest of my career, I feel like I struggled more with like my confidence. So I would make up for it in overtraining and try to be like a practice champion. And then I don't know, I didn't really do as well as these past 2 years. I've done less, and I PR'd. I did better than I ever did before I had a baby.
That's amazing. So when you're doing the shorter distances, you said, for instance, like an 800 is one of your stronger points in your multi-events. So in order to have that speed endurance for an 800, you have to play with rest periods, I would imagine. So did you keep everything pretty short and then play with the rest periods? So like longer rest periods for higher quality work or faster reps, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if you're running 300s, maybe are you running with longer rest periods for faster and then shorter rest periods to do your 800 training? How did you manipulate
I
that?
think well, I
Shorter
didn't, I
distance
mean, I didn't
without
train for,
running like long miles or, something to prepare for the
oh
800?
yeah. Well, I didn't train for the 800 this year, but when I did do 800 training, the shorter the workouts got, I feel like the rest was a lot shorter also in between. Like we would do like a lot of broken 800s, like 200, 400, 200, and then it'd be like race pace, and then you have like 30-second rest. But it was still these short rests. Like I remember one time I did 12 300s with like 2-minute rest in between 300s and then like 5-minute rest between like the sets.
Oh
And I
my
was,
gosh. Wow.
yeah, it was hard. But that's what
I
Annie
did
and Eric.
six and I thought that was a lot. And
Yeah,
I did six with 4 minutes rest a couple weeks ago.
that's a really that's an 800 workout. But that's what I think. I think that's
Great.
better.
Then my friend gave me this workout that she shared a workout with me that she did 8 times 350 with 4 minutes rest.
Wow. And what event is she training for?
400. She
Oh,
actually
really?
she trains for 60 meters all the way to 400. Yeah. But
Wow.
but it's, it was like a fall workout. She wasn't supposed to go very fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And she actually had 5 minutes rest, I think, and I took 4 minutes rest, or it was somewhere close to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was something. But
Intense.
you still, I feel like when you do that, as opposed to, I think there's a time and a place for 600 and 800 meter training, of
Yeah.
course. But like I feel like you're keeping your speed and your power movements, but you're also, training your system to keep that demand on. So, but I was just curious about your rest periods. So you're running, you did less, you felt like you did less, but you got stronger.
Yes. And I think, yeah, this year actually we did take a lot more rest in between things. So it was really just as fast as you can go and then a lot longer rest. Way
That's
different than I've done before. Yeah.
okay. So what do you think is another piece of the puzzle?
Um, I wrote this down. My running, lifting, and my diet. So yeah, I think we touched on all those three, but I also I think what was very helpful is like my experience because I'm an older athlete. I'm 32 years old. I just turned 32. But I think having all the different coaches I've had in the past, all the different training partners I've had, has really helped me because this past year I feel like I would have not liked the less training or not liked it feeling easy because like I all I've known is like, run till you're dead kind of attitude or mindset. But I have this experience and I know that like, no, you can still get to the goal with a different way. Like it doesn't have to be, you're killing yourself every workout.
It sounds like you got to your goal even better by not killing yourself and burning out.
Yes, yes, it's true. Yeah.
What
And
about,
I just
go
what?
ahead.
Oh, and like I didn't have like my first year postpartum, so last year I didn't have any training partners. I trained by myself, and I don't think I would have done that, been able to do that before, because I remember like all the other years, like we had to train on our own for like Christmas or Thanksgiving. I like it was just harder to like get out the door. But I had no problem with motivation or anything when I was by myself, like the past 2 years, which has really helped. But this last season, I did have a training group. I would go out there once a week and I would run with some girls, which was helpful. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I train on my own and it's really hard. Like I definitely miss my training partners in Maui. And I had
yeah,
there's a Canadian guy, Derek, who's runs similar times. He's a whole lot older than me, but over I think about 10 years older than me. But we run similar times. So we were like and he's also more of an explosive. So like when we run a 200 together, we would race a 200 all the time at the local track meets. He would get out really fast through the 100, and then I would get out slower, and then I'd start catching him. So he had less endurance, and I had more endurance and less power, so like we
yeah,
were perfect. And it was just so great when you do have a training group. But then that means you have to be motivated to keep yourself accountable. So like what was going through your mind when you're waking up and you have to train by yourself, you know what you have to do? Like, did you write down your plan? I know you probably had a coach writing your workouts or whatever, but did you have like a plan or like, and what are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself like, oh, I'm so excited to do this today? Or like, I know I got to get this done? Or like, I don't know, like what goes through your mind? I know it goes through my mind, but what goes through your mind when you're waking up and say it's a hard workout? You know, it's going to be a
yeah.
hard workout on the track today. What do you think?
I want to say I had to get this done, but being a mom, I couldn't ever like take my time for granted, because I would work. My husband works from home. I usually saw him like walking through the door. He works out in the front, and I would have to work out when my son napped. So everything I couldn't like dilly dally. Once my son was down, I had to be out the door because I had to be home when he would wake up, because my husband's home, like just in case, but he's working. And that was really helpful because it made me like really efficient. And I had no choice like to think of like, oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. Like I never like dreaded the workout. I was like, no, I just have to get it done.
Yeah,
And I
so
got
like
really
you don't have the when you become a mom, you don't have the luxury of procrastination because it's
yeah,
not
that's
going to
the
happen
that yeah,
later.
that yeah. And then sometimes like I would have my husband come out with me on the technical days when I was doing the hurdles. And then my son would come out obviously too. And that was like hard because like after 30 minutes he'd be like over it, my son. But I would get really good at making my workouts super efficient. I never really went over an hour, and I would just get it done. And I would have to like learn to give myself grace, because like past me would be like, no, you need to be doing more, more, more. But I was like, nope, like this is what it is today. And like I did improve, and like I'm still healthy after today. Like that was good. That's fine.
Yeah, and I think combined events athletes in general like have this. Okay, so I'm just talking from my experience and my experience with combined events athletes clients, but it almost feels like there's not enough time in the day to train for all the events. And so
Yeah,
like you're like you just keep wanting to train more, and you keep thinking if I just do more, I'll
do
show
better.
up better.
Yeah.
And like you said, I actually jumped my highest high jump this past year um with zero high jump practice. I didn't
Yeah,
high
I think there's a thing to that. There's
think
something
so because
about
it's a
not,
mental thing. Yeah, you're not overthinking it, maybe.
your body knows how to do it. And I think when we try to, I mean, if you're learning it, yeah, you want to keep practicing it. But once you feel like you got the hang of it, I feel like when you keep practicing, like maybe sometimes get worse because you're trying to, you start overthinking, or like say you have a bad practice and then you like keep dwelling on that practice. But if you only had a limited number of practices and they were far and few in between, those practices would probably be really good, because that's all you have.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I have a new client who's in his 50s and he was a former triathlon champion. And he is now learning the art of recovery. So before he would do go, 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 and so even though he thought he wasn't doing endurance work anymore, he would say, On my active recovery day, I biked, 20 miles or something like this, and I'm just all, no, this is
Recovery.
still working out. And
Yeah.
so I had to say, like, it has to be like this, like, you have to have this day off. Like maybe you're not doing anything. So what are your like favorite things to recover? Do you do any kind of like compression boots or ice baths or like just relaxing? And I know, okay, one more thing I wanted to say about being a mom is while you're training, you're still thinking about your child, whether they're there or not. And I can tell you that as a mom, it's always in the back of your mind because you have that strong bond and connection, especially with the young children. Like, I mean, your child is what, 2 now?
These two. Yeah.
Yeah, so like he's been a baby for the
Yeah.
past 2 years that you've been training, and you have this natural instinct that you need your baby on you and next to you, right? Because this is just nature. And so it's really hard to focus on your workout. So I just want to give you props for just being a beast momming and focusing on your workout when I know that in the back of your mind, you're probably still connected to your child. But yeah, let's get to recovery. So do you have any favorite methods of recovery?
I don't do ice baths,
You don't
but
like
because
them.
what?
You don't like them.
Well, okay, actually, you just used to do them like every day in college, and then after college, I went to train with this group called Road Athletics, but now they're called Altus. And Dan Paff, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he
Oh
was my
yeah.
coach, and he said he's like no ice baths, like only ice baths between the days of heptathlon, and there was
Yes, this
one
is
other time.
because if you do ice right after practices or too often every night or something like that, then you're actually hindering your training adaptations because you need
Yes,
a little
yeah.
bit of that inflammation to heal your muscle tissues, your muscle fibers. So if I did an ice bath, it would be like so I like to have days off in between my training. So maybe I'll run Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I'll take Tuesday, Thursday off completely. I'll even lift later that day. So I have Tuesday, Thursday completely off. So if I run Monday, it would be like if I did need an ice bath, I would take it Tuesday evening,
Mhm.
before the next day. So it's really far away. My mentor, Charles, said at least 4 to 6 hours after training for an ice bath. And I also found that the lower body just doing the lower body for 18 minutes helped me recover better than doing a 3-minute plunge a few times.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just for the listeners out there, it's also more friendly to get into. You can actually like get in the cold water and then add your ice, like
Oh,
open
yeah. Add it after.
into that. Yeah, and instead of just like getting the shock of getting in and I'm staying in longer. I felt like induced more of a shiver, which is better for your brown tissue activation. Anyway, that's just a little info for the listeners. But
Ah.
so no ice baths. But what did you like to do?
I have the Normatec boots, so I would do Normatec boots always before hard workouts or uh, I bring it to competitions.
Yes, and
But
so the
other recovery,
Normatec boots for those listening are compression boots that you slide into, and it circulates your blood by compressing your legs, and you get this circulation which helps flush out metabolites and junk out of your muscles, so you feel a little bit more refreshed. And what level and what time period would you do on those?
oh, seven, the level 7, and it goes for 20 minutes. Sometimes I would get to do more, but then like my husband would be like, I want to do it. I'm like, okay, you can have it.
Yeah, I've been
Don't work
doing
hard for it.
lately. I've been doing 55 minutes.
Oh
For level
wow, that's
7.
not, yeah.
And I still don't want to get out after 55 minutes, but then my legs are like really, I got all like the little
Yeah.
written marks all over them. And I'm like, I know I really should have probably stayed longer than
No,
50.
that's, I mean, I don't think it's bad, but I would get like claustrophobic in it too for if it too long. I couldn't do it that long. But not like I had more recovery days actually trained for the 400 hurdles than I did the heptathlon. I feel like when I did the heptathlon, I never had an off day. And I had 2 off days when I did the 400 hurdles, which really helped. And I was a big fan of like hot tub, like hot, like for some on my rest days. And also, I was told because I get sick a lot, like I just get like right now I have a cold, like, and the hot kind of helps with your immunity, your immune system, like it kind of kills something or
Yeah,
causes more.
the cold therapy could send your immune system into a little bit of an overdrive if you have immune
Yeah.
sensitivities, for sure. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
What about sauna? Did you ever get to do sauna?
No, I don't have access to one of those, but I've
Yeah.
done that before
I
when I
bet
lived in
that would
San
help
Diego.
you too if you're a heat lover type person.
Yes, yes, I like the heat. One other thing that was like I just think it's a miracle thing is castor oil. So if I ever had any like nagging kind of thing, like I did have a cramp in my hamstring at the very beginning of the season, and I put a castor oil pack where you dump nice castor oil on like this cloth and you sleep with it. I had no pain in the morning. I still was cautious in my workouts because I can tell sometimes I wanted to grab, but like the pain was gone, which was really incredible to me.
That's awesome. And a lot of women use castor oil packs for, when they're on their cycle,
Mhm.
on their, stomach. So that's awesome. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
big believer in the castor oil.
Cool.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about the decathlon for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so I looked at the decathlon. I saw it was open for Masters women. So I'm sure you're aware that Masters women pioneered, the opportunity to compete in the decathlon. And I looked at it and I thought, what could be more badass than that? Like I am all about like feeling your superhero optimal self. And I was like, I think I would feel like a superhero if I did a decathlon. And so I definitely was like super excited to learn all the new things because I'm also all about learning new things as you age, and the neuroplasticity in your brain because our brain develops right by age 25, and then we have to keep it plastic by learning new things. And so for me, it was like super fun to learn all the different events, and it still is because it's a challenge too. I mean, I really actually suck at some of them, which is fine. And I
The
also love,
discus.
man, the
I
discus.
hate.
I fouled two of my three in my decathlon. I'm like, how did this even happen? I threw further in warm up than my final throw.
Yeah, same.
I'm
It was
just, what
hard.
is, yeah,
It's
throwing,
hard.
throwing so technical.
Yes.
And yeah, and so I thought, gosh, what could be more badass than that? But there's the reason why this is important for our listeners is that we were told as women for years that we can't do a decathlon because it's too many events and it's just for the men. And so we maybe we have to do a heptathlon, which is 7 events, because women aren't strong enough to pole vault. This is where this came from. I was
I
doing
know.
research.
I'm like a big believer now. Women should be doing the decathlon. We gotta
Yeah.
get rid of
So
that
tell us why you think women should be doing the decathlon.
because the men do it. But like in a lot of different things, we should be doing what the men are doing. Like, why are we putting ourselves in a box? Like, yeah, maybe we won't do it as well, but we can still do it all. Like, why are we doing the heptathlon? That's really not the all-around athlete. Like, we don't pole vault, we don't do the discus, we don't run a 400. We
Or
don't run the
1500.
yeah, and so like that's the more all-around athlete. So the history of the decathlon, well, the women's heptathlon started in 1930. We got to do the triathlon. So I think that was the 100 hurdles, the high jump, and the javelin. And then later we fought and we were able to do the pentathlon. And then in 1984, right, was the first time that women were ever to do the heptathlon. And 2000 is when the women were allowed to do the pole vault. So that's why we never did the decathlon because we weren't allowed to pole vault yet. But now women pole vault. And so we should be saying, hey, let's do the decathlon. And it's kind of frustrating. After I did this decathlon, I've asked a couple of my friends that did the heptathlon, saying like, guys, why are we doing the heptathlon? We should be doing the decathlon. Like, oh, the history. I'm like, who cares about the history? Let's make new history. Like, no one's gonna care about this. Only we care about the history. Like, let's let the younger generation be able to do the full thing.
Yeah,
And
it's really when I did the Masters decathlon, it was really inspiring to see a young girl out there with us because it was open to all ages. And she was like all about wanting to do all of the events. And I hear current heptathletes will say like, "Oh my God, it's already so hard to train for the heptathlon. Like it's going to be so hard." And yes, it is hard. Now
yeah.
I'm sure one of my clients is Lyndon Victor, who is, was bronze medalist in the decathlon at the Olympics this year.
Yay, go
Um,
Lyndon.
and I'll be interviewing him too soon, but he will tell you, I'm sure that like too, that it's manageable. It is hard, but there are so many things that are hard, and it is manageable to do. And we're not trying to be men, of course.
Mhm.
Like, we believe in fairness in women's sports, and not having males having an advantage over females and that sort of thing. But there's a difference between that and having the same opportunities as men,
Mhm.
which is actually what the fairness in women's sports is about, is having that same opportunity as the man. And
Mhm.
that is the opportunity to have a fair playing field. So what we're asking for with the decathlon is an opportunity to have an equal event, because we know that we are strong enough to pole vault. Again,
Mhm.
it's not going to be as high as Mondo, but
Yeah.
it's okay, because it's kind of like the same thing with, you know, NBA and WNBA.
Mhm.
Yeah, of course, an NBA player is going to be stronger, bigger, stronger, and faster than a WNBA player, but it doesn't mean that women shouldn't have the opportunity to play basketball. That's
Yeah.
where we're at. We just want the opportunity. And I guess what they're saying is that you can't, they don't want to have a heptathlon and a decathlon.
Mhm.
They want to, if it does pass, it would replace the heptathlon.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think let's ask the younger generation, because they're hammers. These girls are
Yeah.
badasses. I see there's a girl here in Hawaii named Destiny Look, and she is crushing it on the multi-event scene. Like, let's ask them.
Well, this is my theory, because I want to say all the heptathletes now, they didn't do the heptathlon because it was a heptathlon. They wanted to do all the events, and that's the only thing that is offered. If when I was young, if it was the decathlon already, I would be doing the decathlon. Like, we would just be doing the decathlon. And it's not about the certain events, it's about just doing all the events. Who cares
Yeah.
what the event is? That's what the sport is. We're just competing, in each thing. It doesn't,
Yeah.
we don't have to be good at it. And then eventually
Yes.
we are going to be good at it. Like, eventually we might not be good at it when it first transitions, but eventually these girls are going to be, kicking butt, like Nafi and whatever, KJT and Anna Hall. Like, we will get better at it.
Yes, I agree. And the one of the fun things about combined events, to watch it and to participate in it, is that you're not good at everything. Or you
Yeah.
are, maybe you're good, obviously, like yourself and our world champion heptathletes are good at everything. But
Mhm.
they have strong points. So they have, events that they're stronger at, and then other combined events, athletes have other events they're stronger at. And that's what makes it a fun competition. And
Yes.
so I feel like with like right now, the heptathlon and the pentathlon, which is what the women do, are really skewed towards power athletes only. And I don't
Hmm.
think it reflects the all-around athlete, to be
It
honest,
doesn't.
like the decathlon does, because when you throw a 1500 into the mix, that's a
We're at
different story.
400.
I mean, the
Yeah.
800, I think the 800 and the heptathlon is still, and the pentathlon, that's still a power event at the elite level. And so you still need a lot of speed work for that at the elite level.
Mhm.
And so I feel like it's all skewed towards just a power athlete, whereas the technical aspects of the throwing events, Lord help me with javelin, I just, oh man, that thing's got me perplexed. But I do have a lot of really great help and coaching, of course, with my client Maggie Malone, and her husband Sam coaches me, and I have another throwing coach too. But man, that, like, is it just me, or is that thing like just crazy, the javelin?
You should.
The other day I threw, well, granted, I was really sore from lifting. Thank you, Malcolm. But I threw like garbage, which is fine. I was just having one of those days. But then I had one brilliant throw, right? I was trying different things, trying different
Huh?
things. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do exactly that again. And I'm going to finish off with a really good throw again. This will be my last throw. And
Yeah.
I did exactly what I felt, exactly the same thing again. And it went 20 feet short. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck just happened?
Because you tried harder. Whenever you have a really good throw, the next throw you need to take 20% off. You have to try less,
Oh, that's
but execute the same. Yeah, try less.
okay, I'm gonna try that next time I practice,
Yeah.
because I was so confused. I was like, freaking javelin. F this.
Yeah. Um, you should try practicing against the wall, like using a ball against the wall. So you don't worry about how far it goes, but you can feel the positions.
That's a great, you know what? I have a rock wall behind my house. It's not very high. So I wonder if,
Yeah, or like a net, the discus net maybe, and like get one of
oh,
those
you know
fish
what?
out.
It's high enough. It's high enough. I think I can do that actually. That's a great piece of advice. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, so I feel like, yeah, the decathlon is more of an all around type.
it is. Because if you look at Nafi in the Olympics, her and KJT beat her in every event, I think. They tied in high jump, I think, except the javelin. And so Nafi was just super good at javelin and she wins the whole thing. But say if they was a decathlon, it would be more variable and like there'd be different winners maybe, and like it would just really separate the field, you
Yes.
know, in the
And
strengths
not to
and
mention,
weaknesses.
let's talk about how long this event takes.
Yeah, it's long. Well, from my opinion, have you've done a heptathlon before? And a
I've
decathlon,
done,
just a jack.
no, I've only done pentathlon and the decathlon. I haven't done a hep yet.
Well, in my opinion, the heptathlon and decathlon feel the same. They're just both long days, you know? And like some events you're good at and some events you're not. So like it's all about like this points kind of thing and the strategy. But I wouldn't say it felt longer. I would just say like I really did feel it felt the same.
That's
And I
really
really believe
interesting.
women can do it. I really believe women should do this.
Yeah, that's yay, great. Um,
Yeah.
well, I think like that's all the questions I had for you today, and this has just been an amazing conversation. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap it up?
No, I'm just so thankful that I got to meet you and talk with you and be a part of your little your series on YouTube. And yeah, I hope that we keep in touch more.
Yes, I was
I
saying developing client because I was able to, I'm humbly grateful to be part of your decathlon journey. I was able to talk to you the day you were competing in your decathlon,
yes.
help you with some strategies with eating and recovering in between events because man, that is a hammer of a long day. And so, um, yeah, so I'm again humbly grateful to be
Aw.
part of that journey.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe your viewers. Your viewers should know. I never had spoken with you before, and I was desperate on day 2 of this decathlon. I hadn't done a multi in 3 years, and that's another thing. I only trained for 3 weeks for this decathlon because was I was only trained for the 400 hurdles and the 100 this past season, and then stuff happened, and I decided to do this decathlon. But I wasn't prepared. I forgot what it was like to prepare in a multi and how long the days are. So I wasn't hydrating enough. And I wasn't eating enough. And I was desperate on day 2. I was so dizzy. I was like, didn't know what to do. And so I was desperate. I was like, I'll just go on Instagram and I'll just call her on Instagram. I've never done that even before either. I don't know how calling works on Instagram, but you answered. I guess it works. And you
It
were
just,
so
yeah,
nice.
I would like the listeners to know that it was really hot. It was, dead heat of summer. It was extremely hot. And yeah, if you haven't done any combined events in a while, then you forget that you really need to like really fuel, like over fuel almost with your nutrient density, but you can't like be full, but there's strategies
Yeah.
for fueling enough with your nutrients and you have to like double your supplements. You got to like 6 times your electrolytes if it's hot out. And so it's like, it's easy to forget to forget if you don't have the reminder. And I just happen to like I have only a couple times a day where I really check my Instagram. And I try to keep it 1 time a day, but usually it's 2 times a day. And I check my messages and I respond and I try to do my posts like all while I'm doing my morning coffee. And so I just sat down with my morning coffee
Oh,
and it starts ringing and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Allison. So it was meant to be.
it really was. I needed your
Yeah.
help. I like just needed someone to tell me like it was also going to be okay and I was going to do fine. Like you gave me really good advice on like don't think about this as maybe it's your last meet. Don't think about your child. Don't think about your family. You're just going to go and compete and you're going to chug a bunch of electrolytes because think I was telling myself on day 1 of like, oh, it's almost over, and then I would just like I didn't want to spend the energy to like go get water and go. Like, I was like, no, I'll just stay here. It's fine. Like I'm kind of in some shade. And then I really paid the price the next day. But you were very helpful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was really fun to be able to help you. And yeah, and I think that the advice that I gave you that anyone can use in competition and any type of competition, or you know what, in life today, is that you just have to focus on one thing at a time. you can't think about that bigger picture being overwhelming, whether it's like you hate your job or, you want, you're having a bad day at work and, like the overall life plan, like, oh my gosh, that's way too much to think about. How about just execute successfully some good choices today? And in your competition, I said, just focus on each piece of your event. So if next you have, the 1500, then just think about, how am I going to start? I'm going to keep on my pace. I'm going to be okay, one lap down, then the next lap, I'm going to keep on my pace. Like, just take it in little bits and pieces and execute that as well as you can. And then the whole thing will come together without it being overwhelming and emotionally traumatizing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a piece of advice that all of our listeners can take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know what's next for me though. Well, I don't know announce this, but I'm pregnant. I'm 6 weeks pregnant.
Oh my gosh,
And we'll see. I mean,
congratulations.
thank you. That was my plan. I wanted after the season, I wanted to, grow my family. But we will see that doing that decathlon really like put the bug into me. Like, I think I can do this again. Like, I got faster after I gave birth. Like, I was 31 years old. Like, I'll be closer to my PRs when I'm 35. I'll be 35 in the next Olympics. And like, should I try again? Like, I think I can I think I can maybe potentially try to do the heptathlon again. And if not, I can do masters because 35 is when masters starts. And I really did enjoy getting back in shape and being fit, like after having a baby. And so we will see what I want to do, but
Well, I predict that you'll do something because like you said, you've made it a lifestyle. So,
yes.
but I'm fully supportive of you growing your family and of course, you'll be hopefully reaching out to me and I'll be helping you with all of
Uh,
that. And now you know you're going to be eating the protein while you're
yes, I did the pre. I don't know. I also had COVID when I gave birth, so that was like
oh wow.
mystery. Yeah, like really ruined my birth plan, but it's okay.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
doing great. And I'm again, so thankful to have you on my little series I'm doing and thankful that you took the time out today to talk with me and so our listeners could be inspired by you.
Oh, thanks, Cynthia. From another world champion to another world champion.
Oh, yay. Okay. Aloha.
Aloha.